created to have some fun together, sharing and singing. So, join and enjoy.
Our love for opera brings us together. Thanks for being with us in this trip.
Well, at this point, you already know that even though the name of this season 7 is Dissecting the Most Popular Arias of the Opera, truth is that we have already talked about a number of pieces or songs that are not really opera repertoire, but instead we have had music coming from musicals, music coming from Neapolitan songs, romances coming from zarzuela, and this is the case for today that we are talking about one of the most well-known Mexican songs. And the reason why we are including this Mexican song is not because I am Mexican, but because there is a good number of tenors and sopranos as well who have made this song part of this repertoire. This is, I wouldn't be sure if this song that we will be talking about today is more known than Granada, another song that we are including in this cycle, or if it is a little less known. Truth is that provided the content and the type of writing that it was decided for this song, it is sung not only by tenors but also for sopranos, which makes me think that maybe it's a little bigger advantage or better positioned than Granada, because Granada is 95% tenors, even though there's been sometimes baritones or very seldom also sung by sopranos. But I have already talked for over a minute and a half, and I haven't told you that the song we are having today is Júrame. Júrame by the great Mexican composer Maria Grever, whose complete or full name was María Joaquina de la Portilla. She was a Mexican composer who was born in the 19th century, almost by the end of the 19th century. So not only was she alive when the Mexican Revolution took place, but also with all the political and revolutionary after problems that happened after that Mexican Revolution. Also, she lived. She was not from the capital. She was not from Mexico City, and as you notice, her name Maria Joaquina de la Portilla doesn't really sound like Maria Grever. That's because Maria Joaquina de la Portilla married an American man, Mr. Grever, who, as a married woman, she took his last name, and that's why she is always known as Maria Grever. But make no mistake, Maria Grever is Mexican. And I was still sharing with you that she's one of the finest composers. We have referred to Maria Grever, not really that much in this Opera We Love Singing podcast, but in a previous project, the 50 Music Postcards, there were several songs that I took from her as an author, and we talked very exhaustively around the character that was Maria Grever. But I would like to summarize for you, because we like to give you this background when we talk about a given piece, that Maria Grever is known for being one of the finest Mexican composers, one of the very few female composers, not only Mexican but also very few female composers, and she is known for her very, if you allow me to use the expression, modest style of composition. She ran into no excesses. She was very fine. She was very delicate. The accompanying music is usually very discreet. There are a few exceptions, but usually her style I'm going to say is simple, but not in a despective way. I want to say that her style is simple because she manages to carry or to keep the essential and still convey a very powerful melody, a very powerful message, a very powerful song in all her compositions. She was a very inspired and a very prolific composer. I don't think her whole catalog. I don't think we have a full certainty of her full catalog because if we were to divide her life very quickly, it would be her early days when she was still living with her family. She was sent to study to Europe, so she studied not only with Debussy but also with Franz Lehár. And in a way, one can see a little trace of those two musicians in the music that Maria Grever composed. That would be her initial stage, let's say her musical formation. Then she would return to Mexico, and that's when she meets the man who would later be her husband, Mr. Grever. Then she gets married. They happen to live together still in Mexico. That's when her little daughter dies. That would be a separate story of also a very well-known song, Muñequita Linda. That's the name that most people know the song, also known as Te Quiero Dijiste. So it is Muñequita Linda or Te Quiero Dijiste, any of those two names. And that would be the second phase of her life in Mexico, but now as a married woman with family and having lost her little daughter at a very early age. And a third phase would be when she leaves for the US. She happens to live in New York, if I remember well, and she makes her life there for a number of years, but she travels along with her sons. Her husband does not travel with her. It has been justified in the sense that he was still running the business that he had been managing during the days prior to the days of the revolution. But if you ask me personally, I think there is something that is hidden because the story simply doesn't match. Maybe we will know what exactly doesn't match. In fact, in the writings of Maria Grever, because Maria Grever is in a way biographical composer in the sense that many of her songs can easily be related to her actual life. So she would compose with the excuse of a song. She would share with us stories or pages of her own life. So one can see in those pages and in those stories the theme of being left alone, the theme of not seeing the beloved one for longer, the theme of feeling sad and far and away, which everything accounts for not being with her husband. There is also a song that refers to the fact that if things can be forgiven, making reference to probably a potential the husband maybe being with another woman. So there is a good number of things that we can talk about Maria Grever, but I don't want to fall into too many details. But I wanted to share with you that by no means the life of Maria Grever and her compositions are accidental. Something else that I have shared in the past, in those 50 music postcards, I did that very often when I refer to the fact that Maria Grever has a very interesting characteristic, and it is that she composes for the natural spoken Spanish. Of course, if you're not a native speaker of Spanish, and that would be the case for maybe 99% of our listeners, who as of this June 2024 already are in 547 cities in 80 countries. So I'm pretty sure that most of you are not native speakers of Spanish. So let me reinforce that idea. One of the nice things about Maria Grever is that she doesn't force the language. She doesn't put any metric that is not natural to spoken Spanish. She in fact does the opposite. She composes in a way that the words fall perfectly in rhythm, in intention. If she wants to show that somebody is telling a secret, she uses a measure, a tempo that matches perfectly to how a native speaker of Spanish would speak if he wants to share with you a secret. Or if maybe he's upset or nostalgic, the way a native speaker of Spanish would speak, what would be not only the notes or the style of speaking, but also how fast or what syllables would he make longer or shorter in order to be able to identify that emotion in the person. That's something very characteristic, and that's one of the most interesting aspects of the compositions by our very dear Maria Grever. And now, a final comment on Maria, that from my perspective, and too many people consider Maria Grever as just for purposes of comparison, not saying that she actually was, but many say, people, if you are familiar with the German gender of leader, in fact, you know that is a specialty. There are singers who are known as being leaderists, meaning they have not only studied but perfected their technique and their vocals in order to sing or to do best for the leader gender, the German leader. Some people say that it is like chanson française, also very delicate in France, and people say that Maria Grever would be that style of composer that thinks of every word, every syllable, and every note to perfection to convey the emotion that she needs to be conveyed. That would be one of the most beautiful souls that we have had in Mexico, the composer Maria Grever. But now, talking about today's song, Júrame, I happen to have a score, one of the first scores that I could find in one of the music stores in downtown Mexico City. It is. I'm not sure if I want to say that it is funny, but it is curious that this type of scores are in a way very traditional to the way that would happen in Mexico. The style of the printing, usually with a beautiful woman in the front page and the huge immense words with the name of the score. I'm going to be taking some photos. That's what I was just thinking. I'm going to be taking some photos and adding them to Ko-fi. So look for them in the gallery of Ko-fi, because by watching the pictures, you will notice what I mean when I say that this is a very traditional Mexican way of printing scores of Mexican music. So that's how I got mine for Júrame. And the first thing I noticed is that the translation of Júrame, because we all want to know what it means. Júrame, in fact, means, for purposes of Spanish, Júrame means swear, promise me. That's exactly what Júrame means. But the translation that I have here, and that says that the words where the English version is by Frederick Martens, he translated Júrame into promise love. As you will see in the content of the song, truth is that it doesn't really talk about a promise of love, or yes, somehow, but that is not exactly what Júrame means. Júrame means swear, promise this number of things that we will be talking about now. So, of course, it is a command. You are commanding, even if kindly, you are commanding someone to please swear, please promise that the following is going to happen. I also mentioned earlier that this song has been sung maybe by almost every tenor of the past 7 or 8 decades. Of course, the most recent are Plácido Domingo, José Carreras. Of course, we also have some international singers. Rolando Villazón, José Mojica, who, by the way, has a very important role in the importance of how this song became a huge Success and Urselay and Alfredo Kraus and many tenors have sung this song because they have found in it a beauty that has conquered many audiences. But now, getting into our business. So, Júrame, again, is like a promise, like swear. Promise me, swear. And the style of the composition of this song, by the way, Maria Grever used to compose in the style of the boleros. However, provided that it has been sung by many operatic singers, truth is that it has been changed, deformed, also, if you allow me the expression, with super heavy, luxurious orchestration, which are not really the style of Maria Grever. It's like a given musician would say, oh, I want to show my skills at adding music to this song. I'm going to do it in Júrame, and I am going to add all these instruments, all these chords, all of this and this and this. And so I am 100% sure that the versions that you have heard of Júrame are certainly not the style of Maria Grever, but the arrangements that a given musician or that a given tenor have requested so to make it more impressive. But the song itself is not meant to be impressive. So the first thing that I'm going to challenge is the style, because I was telling you that Maria Grever would fit or would compose many times in the style of a bolero. So the first part that are basically words. I also want to recall something that I have mentioned previously in a previous season or in the 50 music postcards. Not only Maria Grever is very good at writing for the spoken Spanish, but also the height of the notes. Maria Grever would compose most of her songs barely with a difference of a third or maximum, most of the times a fifth, because remember that she's trying to portray spoken Spanish. And when we speak Spanish, most of the times we keep pretty much the height a little higher, a little lower, the note that we are actually speaking. So we would make uses of pauses, or we would accelerate, we would make a word longer so that we can portray in Spanish what we want to say. But we do not have so many changes in the pitch. That's why in the compositions of Maria Grever, there are not so many changes. And so the words start with saying, todos dicen que es mentira que te quiero. And listen to how it sounds in spoken in Spanish. Todos dicen que es mentira que te quiero. Look at the rhythm. Todos dicen que es mentira que te quiero. And this is very important because now, sorry if I keep criticizing the style of how tenors or opera singers, because sopranos I mentioned earlier have also gone for this song. Since they are not familiar with the bolero on how it is supposed to sound, they go as if it was continuous, as if it was Puccini or some other composer, and that is not the case. Because most singers would do something like, todos dicen que es mentira que te quiero, but it is more in the todos dicen que es mentira que te quiero, ta 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 ta. No, todos dicen que es mentira que te quiero. If you listen to a singer saying, todos dicen que es mentira que te quiero, it means that he really didn't understand the style in which it is composed. So, todos dicen que es mentira que te quiero, porque nunca me habían visto enamorado, porque nunca me habían visto enamorado. You notice, porque nunca me habían visto enamorado. It is not porque nunca me habían visto enamorado. So if you notice, I will try to do it continuously the way it shouldn't be sung. Todos dicen que es mentira que te quiero, porque nunca me habían visto enamorado. That is exactly how it shouldn't have been done. It has to be more spoken. Todos dicen que es mentira que te quiero, porque nunca me habían visto enamorado. Yo te juro que yo mismo no comprendo el por qué tu mirar me ha fascinado. At this point in time, I think that you have already caught the way of this style in the bolero. Ta-ra-ta-ta, 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 ta-ra-ta-ta. So the words go like, todos dicen que es mentira que te quiero. They all say that my love for you is fake. They all say that my love for you is a lie, porque nunca me habían visto enamorado. Well, the score that I have here, it's composed for a woman, so actually she says in feminine, porque nunca me habían visto enamorada. So still speaking in I, you don't see the difference in English because you don't make a difference in that language. So everybody say that my love for you it's a lie, only because they have never seen me in love for anyone. So they have drawn the conclusion that if they see me in love, then it must be a lie, because it is impossible that I fall in love for anyone. But yo te juro que yo misma no comprendo. But I swear to you that even for me, this is something I cannot understand. What can I not understand? El por qué me fascina tu mirada. In this, we have the version El por qué me fascina tu mirada. We also have changes, slightly changed there, that says El por qué tu mirar me ha fascinado, instead of El por qué me fascina tu mirada. At the end, they have the same number of syllables and can be put together in the same bars. But you will notice that some singers say El por qué me fascina tu mirada, and some others say El por qué tu mirar me ha fascinado. Well, so everybody say that it is a lie, that I love you, only because they have never ever seen me in love. But I swear to you that even to me it's a mystery. It is something I cannot understand. Why am I so fascinated by your eyes? Why is it that way you look that keeps me this fascinated? That is how the song starts. So, todos dicen que es mentira que te quiero, porque nunca me habían visto enamorado. Yo te juro que yo mismo no comprendo el por qué tu mirar me ha fascinado. Then comes the next part. Cuando estoy cerca de ti y estás contenta, no quisiera que de nadie te acordaras. So, when I am close to you, when I am near to you, and I feel that you are so happy, I really would like that you cannot think of anyone else. That when I'm by your side and you are happy, I am the only exclusive thought in your mind. In recent days, we could say, well, this is heading to a toxic relationship, right? So I know that I am fascinated by the look in your eyes, and when I am close to you, I don't want you to think of absolutely nobody else. That's what the song is telling. And then the final part of this, there is quasi parlato. Tengo celos hasta del pensamiento que pueda recordarte a otra mujer amada. Sometimes mujer is changed for person. So after having said that in this toxic way of expressing, at least from the recent or our modern eyes, no quisiera que de nadie te acordaras, I'd rather you to not think of anyone else. Tengo celos hasta del pensamiento que pueda recordarte a otra persona amada. Those thoughts make me so jealous. Make me so jealous because I don't want anything to make you recall of anybody else you have loved before, which means I want you exclusive for now, and I want you exclusive as if you had never ever loved anyone else. Tengo celos hasta del pensamiento que pueda recordarte a otra persona amada. And then that's when it now really starts the melody that everybody loves or that everybody knows. Júrame que aunque pase mucho tiempo, no olvidarás el momento en que yo te conocí. Mírame, pues no hay nada más profundo ni más grande en este mundo. If you notice, I am also working or trying to emphasize the style that it has to be sung, because if you have noticed, that order or that way of accentuating and putting rhythm into the words and phrases, tengo celos hasta del pensamiento. It is not hasta del pensamiento, no, hasta del pensamiento que pueda recordarte a otra persona amada. Júrame que aunque pase mucho tiempo, que aunque pase mucho tiempo, no, que aunque pase mucho tiempo, no olvidarás el momento, no olvidarás el momento en que yo te conocí. Mírame, pues no hay nada más profundo ni más grande en este mundo que el cariño que te di. Of course, you may have noticed that there are some parts where already it sounds like a little too much in the voice, but we have to go back to the fact that when Maria Grever starts with the actual content of Júrame or Promise Me, it is mezzo forte. Júrame que aunque pase and she has added not only a crescendo in Júrame que aunque pase mucho tiempo. Not only there are two increases requested. In fact, there are two increases, and there is also an accelerando, which means the singer has to accelerate. That's why you don't say júrame que aunque pase mucho tiempo no olvidarás el momento. It is not like that. It is que aunque pase mucho tiempo no olvidarás el momento en que yo te conocí. Mírame, again with a very short emphasizing, mírame, pues no hay nada, and then again an increase in the volume and an acelerando, faster, pues no hay nada más profundo ni más grande en este mundo que el cariño que te di. If you notice now, it is not a continuous flow of legato and melody as if it was Puccini, but because that's exactly the problem of the way it is sung most of the times, that it is thought to be a Puccinian continuous melody. Pues no hay nada más profundo ni más grande en este mundo que el cariño que te di. Bésame como un beso enamorado, como nadie me ha besado. But it is so that is so unnatural to the way it is written, because emphasizing the way it is written is mírame, pues no hay nada más profundo ni más grande en este mundo que el cariño que te di. Bésame con un beso enamorado, como nadie me ha besado desde el día en que nací. You see, como nadie me ha besado desde el día en que nací. It is not como nadie me ha besado desde el día en que nací. Because that not only sounds way too operatic, which for many people would say, well, if you're an opera singer, it has to sound operatic. No, I wouldn't agree to that. I would like to insist it has to sound like the style of the composer. And the composer does not, Maria Grever, of course, Maria Grever does not compose in the style of Giacomo Puccini. So there is no way it can be como nadie me ha besado desde el día en que nací. Bésame como un beso enamorado. That sounds more like Manon Lescaut than to an actual Maria Grever. So we expect the singer to put or to use maybe only 50% of his or her stamina and work more on the emphasizing and the metrics and the accentuation of the style of the composer rather than portraying that you can sing a powerful Júrame que aunque pase mucho tiempo no olvidarás el momento. No verismo, no Puccini, Maria Grever, much more control. The only time that she writes fortissimo is when we reach the ending, when she says, como nadie me ha besado desde el día en que nací, quiéreme. That quiéreme is only forte and it is crescendo. Quiéreme, quiéreme hasta la locura. That one is the only part that is that has the notation of fortissimo. As for the rest, we have seen that we have the notations for piano, never pianissimo, but we have piano, mezzo forte, forte, and only one phrase to be fortissimo, which means that every time you listen to a singer going full voice and going Bésame con un beso enamorado, that is nothing but an exaggeration. That is overdoing the style of the composer. But let's go back to the words. So we were saying when we reached this part, júrame que aunque pase mucho tiempo no olvidaras el momento en que yo te conocí. So now, for the first time, the expression that gives the name to the song. So promise me that even if many or much time passes, you will never forget the time I met you, that moment that I met you. So I am expecting you to have this engraved in your memories, in your mind, and promise me that you will never forget that moment, the time we met. Then he says, mírame, pues no hay nada más profundo ni más grande en este mundo que el cariño que te di. If you notice, now that I just read it, I also read it in the natural rhythm of the Spanish and the style of the composer. Let me repeat in speaking. Mírame, pues no hay nada más profundo ni más grande en este mundo que el cariño que te di. If you pay attention to that, the rhythm of the music is embedded in the speaking and it is natural. Mírame, pues no hay nada más profundo ni más grande en este mundo que el cariño que te di. So, look at me, because on earth there is nothing that is deeper or bigger than the love that I have offered to you. So that's why you have to promise that you will never forget the moment or the time I met you. Because as you are looking at me, you can now be sure there is nothing deeper or bigger in the whole world than the love that I have for you. And now the third phrase that has been going strong, bésame, kiss me, con un beso enamorado como nadie me ha besado desde el día en que nací. Let me repeat it for you because try to notice the natural and beautiful rhythm of the spoken Spanish. Bésame con un beso enamorado como nadie me ha besado desde el día en que nací. That should be the rhythm that the singer has to convey. Con un beso enamorado como nadie me ha besado desde el día en que nací. So, please kiss me with a love of somebody, with a kiss of love, somebody who is deeply in love, just as nobody has ever kissed me from the moment I was born, making reference to maybe the only other kiss of true love that he has received is the kiss of his mother, and now the second kiss of true love will be of the woman he's singing to. And the fourth part, quiéreme, quiéreme hasta la locura, así sabrás la amargura que estoy sufriendo por ti. Quiéreme, love me, love me, love me, love me until madness. Love me until madness, because that is the only way you will learn how bitter it is that I am suffering for you. So, in a way, this is a very intense song, because notice that we go from todos dicen que es mentira que te quiero porque nunca me habían visto enamorado. Yo te juro que yo mismo no comprendo el por qué tu mirar me ha fascinado. Cuando estoy cerca de ti y estoy contento, no quisiera que de nadie te acordaras. Tengo celos hasta del pensamiento que pueda recordarte otra mujer amada. Júrame que aunque pase mucho tiempo no olvidarás el momento en que yo te conocí. Mírame, pues no hay nada más profundo ni más grande en este mundo que el cariño que te di. Bésame con un beso enamorado como nadie me ha besado desde el día en que nací. Again, quiéreme, quiéreme hasta la locura, y así sabrás la amargura, y así sabrás la amargura que estoy sufriendo por ti. So, I have read the complete with the natural spoken voice, because that's what will give you the true idea of what the natural intonation and rhythm is, and which is of course very lovely. So don't be surprised if it doesn't sound that much familiar to you, because if you listen to the most known versions of recent years, of course those would be Rolando Villazon's and Plácido Domingo's. Both of them do something way too operatic, which is not the natural way of the very great composer Maria Grever. What I like about that is that having included Maria Grever's Júrame in their concerts has given it much more fame than it already had, so that is great. What I don't like is how deformed now the understanding is. But Júrame is by far or for sure a very great song. Quiéreme, quiéreme hasta la locura, y así sabrás la amargura que estoy sufriendo. By the way, as we are reaching the end of the program, the way it ends is also very discreet. After having the only fortissimo in quiéreme, quiéreme hasta la locura, with the expression of Maria Grever in the score, lento, mezzo piano, and doloroso, which means slow, low volume, and it's really hurting you. Así sabrás la amargura que estoy sufriendo por ti. That's how it is expected to end. Que estoy sufriendo por ti. And of course, you are much more familiar with the exaggeration and the transpolation of tenors that usually que estoy sufriendo por ti. And of course, por ti is a very operatic way of wrapping up an opera aria, but this is not an aria. This is a song. The way it is written, que estoy sufriendo por ti. And that's how this lovely song, Júrame, or promise, swear that you will do all that for me, provided all the love that I have for you.
You can follow our channel for the latest updates and more content. Opera We Love Singing, in just one word. Link in the description of the episode.